Good morning, everyone. It's Lee Henson, President and Founder of Agile Dad. It's time for today's episode of the Daily Stand Up. So, without any further ado, let's get started. Today, I wanted to talk to you about an email inquiry received. So, we really appreciate our subscribers. We're starting to get lots of inquiries, which is great. This inquiry asks, quote, "We notice that you do a lot of top 5 tips to do this, or the top 10 things, top 10 ways you can achieve, this or that," right? So, the question was, it's great to have all these practical tips, but are these tips just a set of tips? Is there a pattern? Is there a reason why you do it this way? And I thought that was a great question. So I thought I'd address it here on the podcast. So the reason we always say like the top 3 tips or the top 5 tips or 6 great ways to or the top 10 reasons for, this is a really good way for you to get short snippets of information in a short amount of time, obviously. But I think more so when you start talking about people who are trying to get into the mode of a growth mindset, when you start talking about people who are trying to change their way of thinking or do their work better, when you start thinking about the way you do anything, I mean, let's just take, for example, building a piece of furniture from IKEA. Everyone's nightmare, right? And I love IKEA, and I think that about 50% of what they have is absolutely amazing, and 50% of what they have isn't worth the box it's packed in. But the truth is, those instructions probably drive about 95% of their audience crazy. And they do this as a cost savings because obviously, if you don't need to write the instructions in 30 different languages and it's just a bunch of pictures, it makes it easier for you to get through. But you hear people say a picture's worth 1,000 words. But is it just that their picture isn't good enough, or is it just that it frustrates you because there's so much information there that it's easy to miss a step? And I think you see where I'm going with this. I think that sometimes lists are incredibly helpful because they help us get our head around a small nugget of work to set a realistic goal and to do something that's achievable. I think in other situations, the list could be probably the worst thing you could do because it's a list that you could just check the boxes and move on, as opposed to making sure that you have a growth mindset and changing the way you think, changing your behavior. And I think that more importantly, in Agile, in many cases, is changing your behavior. However, what I've found is that Agile is such a big pie, it is such a giant cake that no one wants to try to take on Agile all at once. Or at least if you do, you're crazy. I think that people appreciate having smaller bite sized chunks. They appreciate doing things iteratively. Go figure. They appreciate being agile about agile. Boy, that was just inception. No, but I think that people want to know a few things they can do, little things that are minor adjustments that are going to help them be better at writing user stories or help them be better at refinement meeting or help them interact better with their teams. Now, I've seen probably a million books out there, 50 quick home improvement projects that are going to raise the value of your home, 101 ways to improve your backlog items, the ten very important things every Scrum Master should know, right? I mean, we've all seen those lists. And while many of those lists are good, handy, lightweight, easy points of entry for people who are trying to learn and dedicate focus to what they're trying to do, other times those little short lists and tidbits and quibits, they just they're not what we need. It's just, that's great, now what, right? You need a little more. So I think the key here, just as it is with many things in Agile, is to find balance. And I think that, it's totally okay for us to want to have that growth mindset. It's totally okay for us to look for things we can do. In fact, I'm guilty as charged. I'm the guy who says, 7 deadly sins of technical debt, the Agile 12-step program, 9 things you can do to, I mean, I'm guilty as charged, right? But the truth is, when people are trying to make big change, sometimes the small steps are the best way to get them there. So I guess the underpinning here is, while in many cases it may seem silly to you, maybe that silliness is a sign of your maturity and that this might be exactly what someone else needs. So until until I figure out another way or a better way to try to get these things home, I feel like this is just one tool in a great toolbox that's going to help us be successful. especially in this current state of the pandemic and with people working from home. I think it's important for them not to feel overwhelmed with the amount of things they're being asked to do. So, this is just a really cool low point of entry way to say, hey, we have some things we need you to do. Here they are. And what I found is that teams appreciate that and that organizations appreciate that. And it's just one of many tools that we can use to get things done. So, I hope this has been helpful for you. As always, we encourage you to visit agiledad.com where you can learn more about this topic and others. And as always, we encourage you to stay healthy, stay well, and stay agile, my friends. Until next time, do take care.